Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of the Heron's Haven podcast. This podcast is very special today because in this one, it's going to be also specifically broadcast or streamed on Spotify. So if you are listening from Spotify, thank you so much. And if you're here on YouTube interacting, then I appreciate you for being here. But yes, today we are going to be talking about the preview of Inter Miami's upcoming fixture against DC United in the MLS regular season. So let's get to it. The main talking point that we're going to be talking about today is the fact that Messi um, is Messi, just really Messi in general. Will he be playing? Will he not be playing? And I have a couple of sources that that could say otherwise, have their speculation, but we also do have direct quotes from Tata Martino from this morning that I will pull up for you on YouTube. You will probably visually see it on Spotify. I'm not really sure. You're just going to have to listen along to it. But without further ado, let's get straight into it. So this is the article from Miss Kaufman. Let's switch over to that. And it says here, Lionel Messi, who missed the Inter Miami game Wednesday at Orlando City after taking a knock to the knee, is expected to be available for the home match Saturday night against DC United. He trained with the first team Friday morning, and all signs point to him playing at least some of the game at Chase Stadium. This is a quote from Tata Martino. He trained well Thursday. We will expect him again on Friday, and we will decide his availability after training, but we are optimistic regarding the game on Saturday. So, just based off that, it gives us a lot of hope, right? As Inter Miami fans, as Messi fans, as just people who just enjoy watching the game, this gives us a lot of hope that Messi will, in fact, be playing against DC at home at Chase Stadium this Saturday. Now, the reason I had a lot of suspicion when this was coming up, honestly, the injury itself didn't look too bad when you saw it live. And I'm talking about 2 days ago against, it was against Montreal, I'm pretty sure. When he did take that knock, it didn't look as bad. He didn't look too uncomfortable. He didn't look like he was in severe agony. But I mean, a kick to the knee or to the leg is a kick to the knee. So I did have my suspicion of him actually being available for this game. But now that Tata Martino is giving us a lot of hope, which he normally doesn't, when something like an injury or anything like that, especially with Messi happens, he normally just kind of brushes it off. Like he'll say, we will see. Only time will tell. Like that was what was happening in the build up to the Monterrey game in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. They just kept saying, oh, yeah, we don't know yet. Oh, maybe it's likely. But, this time he seems more confident or just more positive on the fact that Messi will actually be playing this weekend. So that gives me a lot of hope as some, obviously who follows the club closely and who's been a supporter for a really long time, and obviously very concerned for Messi's health. But the reason why I had suspicion as to why Messi couldn't be playing tomorrow was just like literally the sole reason, because Copa America is like just weeks away. It's just a couple of weeks away, probably like about a month away. And I would say that even if there is the slightest bit of injury or the slightest bit of discomfort, there is no way that either Tata Martino, Messi himself, or the club would risk Lionel in playing any game, because that is not the fact that Messi doesn't prioritize the MLS or doesn't prioritize winning MLS Cup, but playing for the national team is very, very important to him. And so it was just really doubtful in my head, the fact that he would be playing tomorrow. Now, Tata Martino says that he might play. He will most likely play, and that he looks good in training on Thursday and Friday morning. However, the fact that we don't know if he does play in a hypothetical situation, will he play the entirety of the 90 minutes? In my opinion, and what I think, probably not. I highly doubt that Messi will play the entirety of the 90 minutes against DC United, especially because, well, especially if we're pretty dominant that game. DC United aren't having the best of seasons. I mean, honestly, their only threat in that team. I'm not a DC United expert. I really wish I could bring somebody on to just, you know, talk on their behalf. But somebody, as an Inter Miami supporter and just looking from the outside, honestly, they don't have real threats on paper. Their biggest threat on paper, and not even on paper, but he's actually balling out right now in the MLS, is Christian Benteke. And we all know Christian Benteke. We all know what he's done at the top leagues in his prime. So we all know that he's a problem. But if he's the only issue, I mean, like, if they're just going to be crossing and feeding Christian Benteke, we have nothing to worry about. We should be able to lock him in. I don't want to say easily, but we should be able to adapt to that tactic. So, but like I said, I honestly, from the goals that I've seen that were given by Christian Benteke, it's literally just them either crossing the ball pretty high in order for him to jump because he has that jumping reach and head it in, or just they just constantly feed him. I read something or I heard something about like him being the only player that scored like more than 1 or 2 goals this season, and he has like 11 or something. So I thought that was insane. I mean, like, I guess, props to him. He's like acting like a pure number 9. But yeah, if he's the only threat, like real threat that we have to face at DC, we should be fine. Like, in all honesty, like this should be a comfortable win. This should be a very dominant win. But I mean, we are Inter Miami at the end of the day, and we just do very unpredictable things, and we just sometimes we just perform like crap. So I hope we don't do that tomorrow. But yeah, um, but yeah, that's what I have to say on Messi and for Tata and his quotes and what he thinks um should be the situation with Messi. But I did have something else about Benteke. It says here in the same article, I'm actually gonna pull it up again. It says here, Inter Miami coaches would love to stretch their unbeaten streak to 7 games with the win this Saturday against DC, who is in 8th place in the Eastern Conference. Christian Benteke, DC's imposing 6-3 Belgian striker, stands in the way. Benteke, who is tied with Miami's Luis Suarez in the Golden Boot race with 11 goals in 11 games, is one of the most dangerous forwards in the league. 100% true. He is particularly lethal in the air. Also 100% true. He scored a hat trick of headers against Atlanta United last weekend. That was crazy. I did remember seeing the highlights of that game. That was actually insane. Beating center back time and time again to receive his teammates' service in and around the 6-yard box. This will pose a challenge for Inter Miami, whose defense has been inconsistent all season. Miami has put its strongest defensive performance against Orlando on Wednesday, coming up with its first shutout since the opening week of the season. Other times, the backline has been vulnerable. And before I speak on that, I'm going to read a quote said by Tata Martino about Benteke. So it says here, and I quote, obviously Benteke is a very strong player in the area and around the goal. So the second task is to mark him in the area, and the first is to take away assists to him, which often comes from the flanks, sometimes from the front because of his aerial game. Clearly, when there is someone so decisive in the area, the best option is to keep him farther away from the goal. Okay, well, I thought that was common sense, but yeah, pretty much Tata Martino recognizes Benteke being a massive threat, especially with a defense like ours that, like Miss Coffin has said, very inconsistent all season. Very, very inconsistent, and at times it's more worse than actually good defense. So I mean, and also she said it, which is 100% true. 100% true. I spoke about it in the last episode of the podcast. Last game against Orlando was our best defensive effort that we've had pretty much all season, and it is our first clean sheet literally since we played Orlando early in the season when we beat them 5-0 at home. So literally our last game against Orlando, even though it was not the best result that we could have asked for, defensively it was a great effort. Offensively, it obviously wasn't the best. But now the question is, what will we see tomorrow night? Will we be seeing the leaky defense that we've been seeing all season, or are we going to bring in the momentum from last game against Orlando into tomorrow's game? Now, obviously, I really hope that we continue the momentum of having a solid defense and creating good challenges and locking down the opponents. But they have a Christian Benteke up front. Will Aviles and Freire be able to handle that? Will Busquets be able to maybe contribute a little bit to that as well? Will Gressel? Gressel loves to track back. He gets all of the field. Will he be making a more defensive effort more than usual? Honestly, probably, especially for Gressel's take. But it's going to be very, very difficult. It's going to be very, very difficult with a defense like ours, even though we have the most expensive center back ever in MLS history. And even though we do have literally a quality team on paper, and I've said it time and time again, we have the best team in the MLS on paper. Um, it's going to be very, very difficult locking somebody down like Benteke, and that's just one player. I'm not saying that the rest are nobodies. Benteke, obviously the main threat, but it's like, okay, once you got Benteke locked down, somebody's going to be open. If you double mark him, or if you play like man to man defense on him, and you double team him, somebody's going to be open. So I mean, Tata Martino is saying that our goal is to keep it farther away from the goal. Sure, but how? How would they do that? I mean, honestly, in my opinion, they should probably have somebody marking him. The only issue is like, well, who's going to mark him? Aviles? Aviles is not going to be able to handle Benteke. Freire is probably not going to be able to handle Benteke. I think Busquets probably has the best chance against Benteke, not physically, but maybe in terms of just being able to slow him down. But I don't know. It's gonna be a huge, huge challenge defensively for Inter Miami. And honestly, with the leaky defense that we've had this season, we're bound to concede tomorrow. Highly doubt that we'll even keep a clean sheet. But yeah, it's gonna be very, very difficult tomorrow, and Tata Martino has acknowledged those difficulties. Um, yeah. So for our predicted, let's talk about the predicted lineup for tomorrow, right? So no, let's say that Messi doesn't play for the first half, which honestly I think would be best if he didn't play for the first half, because especially in recent games, we've been on what, an 8-game undefeated streak or something, or seven, something like that, 6 or 7, and especially within these last couple of games, we've done very, very well in the second half. A lot better in the second half than the first half. So I would very like, if I were to bet money, I would bet money that Messi would play only in the second half, and he would probably play pretty much the entirety of the second half. Which means that they could either rock the same formation, the same tactic that they did against Orlando, with Matias Rojas up top, with Robert Taylor and Suarez, with Benka, Sergio Busquets, Gressel in the midfield, and then the same back four as always. They might be playing Jordi Alba. He did make an appearance last time out against Orlando off the bench. He could be making the start. I've honestly been liking Negri, so I don't have a preference of who starts over the other. So they could do that, or I don't know. I mean, honestly, will Suarez even start? Suarez had a terrible game against Orlando, in my opinion. I mean, he did have a couple of chances in the beginning and in the early on in the first half. I think he had like one or two like real like one-on-ones in front goal, and that he completely missed, if I remember correctly. And so yeah, and then he came off early. He came off early for Campana. Will we see Suarez starting off the bench? And I honestly wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't be surprised. We need more of Campana. Honestly, we need, especially because Suarez, I spoke about this in the last episode. Suarez is only here for the remainder of this season. Once the season's over, we don't have a striker. We don't have a number 9. Campana is our guy. Campana and Leo Afonso. Leo Afonso has been playing more on the wing recently. But yeah, no, Campana is our main striker because we don't have a Martinez anymore because we traded him to Montreal early in the season. So yeah, our Campana's our guy, and so we're gonna need Campana. We need more minutes for Campana. He needs to give more minutes to Campana. By he, I mean Tata Martino. So could he be seeing those minutes tomorrow at DC? I hope so. I want Campana to start more, and I want him to perform well. When he does come off the bench, he doesn't make impact. He does not make an impact off the bench. So it really gives Tata less of a reason to start Campana, because it's like, okay, well, I'm giving you 30 minutes to try to do something. I mean, I don't expect you to score, but try to contribute a little bit to the game. It probably demotivates, him actually making Campana a starter for a game or two. But no, I honestly, in my opinion, Campana needs to start. Suarez needs to be on the bench maybe for a game or two. I understand that he's the top goal scorer. I understand that people want to see Suarez, people want to see Messi, but like at the end of the day, we need the players that are actually going to be at the club for a while to perform and to get minutes. Especially if Messi's knocked, we need Matias Rojas can make another start with Robert Taylor. The front three could literally be Robert Taylor, Campana, and Matias Rojas. Even though Matias Rojas, well, nobody in the attack had a good game last time against Orlando, but Matias Rojas is a great player. I mean, like ever since he's joined the club, he's hit the ground running. Hopefully, he can continue running and not slow down or stop at any point. But hopefully he can continue running because he is a quality player. I've seen him play for Racing. That is a team I support in Argentina, and we know what he's capable, or I know what he's capable of, and I feel like a lot of people know what he can be capable of. If you don't know, you're in for a real. I mean, you already got a glimpse of it when he scored the golazo free kick from like 30 yards out. You already seen him against the New York Red Bulls, making an impact from the halftime and being subbed on at halftime. He was almost an immediate impact into the game. So yeah, we need players like Campana. We want players like Campana and Matias Rojas to perform because they are quality players who are going to be at the club for a minute. And once Suarez leaves, we literally have nobody except them. So might as well give them the minutes now. Start building their confidence back and start getting them accustomed to playing with the team in games. For the back four, there's honestly defense wise, there's really nothing we can do. There's really nothing we can do. In terms, because we have only those four center backs. Like, well, our right back Chelo is literally the only right back option that we have, right? He is our only right back option. Freire and Aviles are literally the two best center backs that we have. Kritsov is too slow, even though he's a good defender, he's a great center back, but he is too slow and he can't keep up with the pace of the game. Which really hurts us on a counterattack. It really hurts us when the other team are on a break, and it's almost cost us multiple times. I want to say it was against Montreal. I forget which game that he made the start, but it almost cost us a couple times, especially when it comes to the communication with everybody, because that whole original back four all speak Spanish. They're all Argentinian. So once you put Kritsov into the mix, already right there, the communication is off. Kritsov obviously doesn't speak Spanish, so it already causes issues communications wise. So yeah, I mean, but yeah, other than that, like Noah Allen hasn't really been the best at center back. I mean, are we really gonna play him probably off the bench? But in all honesty, we don't really have that many options at the back, or at least good options. I mean, Aviles is our best and Freire is our best, so which is fine. They're great players. They've just been very inconsistent all season, and so it would just be nice to see some consistency from the defense, especially like if we were to see a defensive effort against Orlando tomorrow, I would be happy. But we just need to be obviously we just have to score goals. But anyway, yeah. And in the midfield, we have a couple of options in the midfield, man. I mean, obviously we have Benja and Ruiz, who are currently fighting for a starting position. Busquets is not going to be getting out of the starting 11 anytime soon. As long as he's fit and healthy, he will be starting and will be playing. And Russell is, I've always said in every episode, that he is a very underrated player. What he does and what his role for the club is extremely underrated and underappreciated. And people need to I don't want to take shots at anybody, but people need to open their eyes and see like what he's actually doing for the club. I mean, like, yeah, he's not scoring goals, but that's not his job. His job is literally getting up and down the field, covering ground, marking players. He's literally like the definition of like a box to box midfielder. We do have Skrilla in the YouTube chat saying Gaston Adul said Twitter, Messi going to play tomorrow. If Gaston says it, then that means it's true. And that's just straight up. Gaston says it, it's going to be true. Tata Martino said that is most likely he will play, and honestly, I don't doubt it. We were just talking about the likeliness of him playing for the entirety of the 90 minutes. I said that he'll most likely play for just the second half and probably for the entirety of the second half. But yeah. But going back to the midfield, like I said, we talked about the attack, we talked about the defense. For the midfield options, like I said, Busquets is not leaving. I feel like Gressel should be keeping his starting role, and I think the other center mid option should be between Cremachi and Ruiz. Now, obviously, we do have some players that are still out, like Federico Redondo, Facundo Farias, but he's more of an attacking player. But yeah, I mean, like, we do have really good midfield options as a whole, and hopefully we'll be able to take advantage of that when the time comes. But yeah, no, I love Cremachi. I love what he brings to the club, and I love Gressel. I love what he does for the team. So honestly, I highly rate our midfield. I feel like the midfield is probably the strongest that we have, like in terms of just players and in terms of actually giving out good and consistent performances. So I really highly rate the midfield. I rate Cremachi slightly higher than Ruiz, but also that could be me being biased as being also Argentinian. But yeah. So honestly, my prediction for the starting 11 for tomorrow is literally just going to be the same thing that I think that we've rocked against Orlando with Calendar in goal. I think Jordi Alba might get a start with Freire, Aviles, and Chelo Wengand as the back four. Cremachi, Busquets, and Gressel in the midfield. And then I think it's going to be Robert Taylor, Leo Campana, and Matias Rojas as the front three. I think Messi and Suarez will both come off the bench in the second half and play the entirety of the second half. Um, so yeah, I think because like I said, Suarez came off early. He wasn't having the best game. I think he came off in around the 60th minute mark. So I think that Campana deserves to at least start for a game just to give Suarez a little bit more competition. I would like to see more Leo Alfonso in the second half, possibly as a substitute. Um, and yeah, maybe we'll see, and then we'll probably see somebody like Kritzhoff or Noah Allen come off the bench or something for the defense. But yeah, that is going to be the end of this episode of the Heron's Haven podcast. I appreciate everybody for coming in from the YouTube, stopping by, interacting. I appreciate to all those listeners on Spotify for listening. This is the first episode that is going out on Spotify. So let me know what that experience is like. And if you are on Spotify, please head over to my YouTube channel and just subscribe to that if you want more interactive during the podcast, wants to share your input and your takes on all things Inter Miami. And so, yeah, hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one. I'll be live tomorrow after the game to do my post-game reaction. And yeah, and so I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Ball Miami.